Well, hello there, and hello to people in my audience and to people who are watching tonight. Today on Wake Up Your Magic, we are doing a Wake Up Your Magic special in celebration of our 2.5 years on the air. I gotta tell you, man, we are rocking. You gotta stay tuned tonight to join our audience. They're gonna sing and they're gonna participate in the creativity workshop. Living his dream, he sparks the passion of people like you watching to the corporate giants. So to you out there, envision yourselves dancing, your eyes sparkling, your imaginations flourishing. Imagine your pocketbooks full, your relationships joyful, and your health bursting with vim, vigor, and vitality. We want you to leave that dial here. And yes, all of us, our audience, and Adam and I are going to show you how. So did any of you, or have any of you ever felt like a ball of yarn all rolled up, stuck, matted down, wanting to find a way to unravel your life? Well, get comfy. Open yourself up to a whole new world of creativity. You think that music's great. You gotta stay tuned because we have more music coming forth. It's gonna put pep in your step. There's more upbeat songs, singers, surprises coming your way. Hi, I'm Susan Guild, and I'm host of the Wake Up Your Magic show. People always say to me, what the heck is this Wake Up Your Magic anyway? Wake Up Your Magic is tapping into the universal power of the creative energies within to make your life the very, very best it can be, giving you tools, the foundations to spread your wings onward and upward. It's that simple. Adam, our featured guest right here, said to me, could have shot him for this, Susan, I want to stretch you in this Wake Up Your Magic special. Yikes, you mean I can't hide behind guests like you any longer? So here goes Master Adam, a bit of my story. One, I want to share how I got started on this journey. And secondly, my impressions and views of the creative approach have deepened, how they have deepened over the years. When my kids went off to college and they left the nest, I was doing very well in traditional sales, and yet there was something missing, that missing link in life. As I look back, I realized somewhere deep down I was searching for my life purpose. Who the heck am I anyway? Why do I feel so empty? Sound familiar? Thus, Wake Up Your Magic was born and grew into my 3 books. You're going to see them right now on the screen. Wake Up Your Magic, My Spiritual Journey, Finding My Voice. Find Your Dancing Heart, a 30-day clarifying, fun journal. The Red Polka Dot Pillow. Don't you love this picture? Wake up the real who within you, filled with activities and prose. Plus my amazing, I don't know if I've told you about this, Adam, my all-new traveling, self-empowering 6 to 8 week groups called Circle Power. So uplifting to look at. So you know what happened? They just kept pulling at my sleeves, Adam. And I wanted to go forward, but I kept pulling at my sleeves to go forward, but I wanted to pull back. I was scared to death of my own uniqueness, my own intuition. Does that resonate with you? Now, I want to share right now the best part of this creative journey. I look back and I think of my poster 12 years ago. Now, in those days, we did talks and we used posters. There was no computer, right? And right off the bat, I thought of the benefits of the creative process, that it's freeing, that it makes us look younger, it makes us feel younger, puts pep back in our step, transforms loneliness, blame, and hurt, saves time, money, doctors, heals mind, body, and spirit. I love these. They're so true today. Taps into our inner core, creates an outlet for powerful emotions, and recaptures our childlike sense of wonder. And then I fast forward, Adam, and I know you've been in this for 25 years, and since I've done my own inner work on this, I find that my beliefs and my convictions of the depth of what Wake Up Your Magic brings forth is truly amazing. And again, right on the screen, you see the wonderful things I feel about Wake Up Your Magic now in combination with this, that it provides a solid platform to spring forward, to unearth our own answers, to find real solutions. The groundwork becomes a tremendous healing agent. Gets to the core, we've said that here, that universal womb. And the thing I love as I'm sitting here with all these young people in my audience is that it crosses age and gender barriers, allowing us to meet, greet, and connect at a very profound level. Plus, it reinforces a life full of synchronicities, allowing us and people like me to use my intuition and let my intuition soar. You know, Adam, I had such butterflies when you said you've got to do this first 10 minutes. Thank goodness it's almost over. But I have to tell you, it's been such fun to share how and why and what I'm doing with Wake Up Your Magic and how it's evolved for me. Thanks for drawing me out. I love chatting about how the creative approach can enhance one's life. So now we've got the creativity master who's been doing this for years and years. I'm just going to turn this over to you, and you're going to set the base of what we're going to do with a creativity workshop. But first, you're going to tell us a little bit about you, and you have some guidelines. So, Adam.
All right.
It's yours.
All right. Hello to the audience. Can I hear something from you guys? All right. Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate that. And I've been somebody who, for whatever reason, from a young age, I think in part because my creativity was squelched by others, who's been a real advocate for helping everybody be more creative and really accessing, you know, the gifts we have inside, but also taking a look at the culture around us. And even though we tend to think of the United States as a very innovative place, the truth is it's quite a conformist culture.
It is.
And to really be able to fly your freak flag, it's hard to do. And in particular, in the 21st century now, we're at a time when creativity and innovation are key to everything.
I agree.
So it used to be a time, it used to be, you know, a place where it's nice to be more self-expressive. You know, it's nice to, it's certainly healing for us to be able to use our imagination. But the reality now is it's an imperative. We have what I call an innovation imperative. You know, I write a blog on creativity called Innovation on My Mind. And I'm lucky enough to facilitate many different groups, ranging from, you know, senior leaders of corporations to teachers and nonprofit staff members and other folks, and help them go through the process of how do we become leaders when it comes to creativity, and how do we allow ourselves in a collaborative way to be more creative, to solve problems, to be more inventive. Because this innovation imperative now is, there's nothing we can do about it except to be more creative. And what I mean by that is, economically, if the United States is gonna, you know, sort of reclaim its place as a leader economically, business leaders understand now they have to be more innovative. They have to come up with new products and services never imagined before. Personally, we have to be more creative. We all know that our jobs are not, you know, the same. We're not going to be with the same company for our whole lifetime. we have to keep inventing ourselves. We have to keep learning. So personally, really important for us to access our own passion and be more creative. And just culturally in general, we have a lot of problems. You know, whether it's healthcare or the environment or the paralysis of our politics, we need some creative solutions. We need creative problem solving like never before, or frankly, we're screwed.
Okay.
And you know, I think just as somebody who takes a look at the culture like you do, I think a lot of people are in a malaise right now. You know, we're kind of stuck and we're information overload and too busy and juggling so many things. So we need to get our heads together and use our imagination to solve the problems we have, but also to live a better life. So I'm excited about being able to stir up creativity in people. And I want to have a chance to stir up a little creativity during the show and with our audience and with you as well. So if you don't mind, I'd like to change things around a little bit and do a little creativity workshop. Is that okay?
That'd be great. That'd be great.
All right, great. So we are gathered here now to have some experiments with our creativity. So the concern for all of us is, how do we become more creative people? How do we become more creative as a culture? And how do you individually and personally access that creative side of you? So I want to talk a little bit about some of the research on creativity, a little bit more about creativity, but I want to start with a little quick typical assessment that creativity researchers would give someone like you. So I want everybody to try this, including people at home, or if you're watching this on your computer right now. So let's start with this very simple exercise. You guys ready? You see a paperclip on the screen. I'd like you to come up in 1 minute with as many possible uses for a paperclip. As many possible ones, as many as possible. 1 minute, go. No. Just write it down on your sheet of paper. Okay, 10 more seconds, 10 more seconds. If you're at home, put on pause if you need a full minute. And pens down, please, pens down. Okay, great. So I want to hear some of the ideas you have for all the possible uses for a paperclip. Let me hear some. What do you got?
To make a chain.
Nice, chain.
To
To
fix
take a lock.
pants when they're ripped.
Fix pants, nice.
Unbend it and use it to unlock a door.
Oh, unbend it, unlock a door. Great, what else you got?
Make ornaments.
Make ornaments, beautiful.
Use it to hold a fan in place on a window.
Hold a fan on a window. Great, anything else?
Unwrap it and use it to fix something.
Use it to fix something as well. Okay, great. So whatever you came up with is wonderful. Let's think of all the possibilities of what we could use a paperclip for. If we look at this thing right here, it made me think, because it's so large on there, what are the different possibilities? Well, I want to show you how you would be assessed based on that test. And you'd be assessed using 3 criteria. And the first one would be simply how many answers, how many solutions, how many uses did you come up with in 1 minute. So anybody here come up with more than 10, 10 or more? Oh yeah, great. How about 8 or 9? Anybody come up with that? Great. How about 7, 6 or 7? Nice. 4 or 5? And 3 or fewer? Okay, great. So that first measure we call fluency. Fluency, like fluent in a language. How good are you at turning on your faucet of ideas? That's the first measure. The second measure of creativity is called flexibility, which basically is how many different kinds of ideas did you come up with? So it's one thing to, how many people came up with a weapon as an idea? Anybody come up with that? So that might be a common thing. There's different kinds of weapons. You could slice somebody, you could poke somebody with it. How many people came up with some kind of jewelry as an idea? Anybody do that? So a lot of times people make chains or hang some kind of ornament. How many people opened it up and did something with it? So some of you did that. So I remember one of the things I loved was a belt for a doll. Flexibility is all about seeing things from a different perspective. So if you're a flea, what would a paperclip be potentially for you?
It'd be a ship.
A ship, a bridge. Again, if you are a giant, what would a paperclip be? Something very different, you know, a tiny little prick on your side. So our ability to shift our perspective and see things differently, to be flexible in our thinking, is another competency, another criterion for creativity. So if you decided to chop it up and throw it like confetti, you're being very flexible because you're thinking about it in a different way. So fluency, flexibility. The third criterion is originality. Who in this room came up with something that no one's ever thought of before? So again, fluency, flexibility, and originality are three different ways we can become more creative. One thing we want to do is be able to use our fluency, and basically fluency means to turn on your faucet of ideas. So one of the things that's hard for a lot of us, because there's so much judgment in the world, is to actually just open up that faucet and say, here is a possibility, here's an idea. In order to be more fluent, we actually need to sort of change the ground rules by which we normally operate. So I want you to think of, what do you need right now to be the most creative for the next 20 minutes together? What do you need? What were some ground rules? And what I'd like you to try to do is come up with 3 words starting with P, T, and S. So I want you to use these 3 letters to begin words. You know, it could be people, trouble, strangeness. What would you need here right now to feel more creative, to allow yourself to generate more ideas? So I want you to actually right now come up with as many trios of words, starting with P, T, and S, as you can, to demonstrate or show what would help your behavior, what would help you be more creative. So P, T, and S. Take about 30 seconds to do that. What do you need to feel more creative? All right, time's up, pens down. Good work. I know I cut it off very quickly. So who's got some? Can we just hear some PT and S's from the audience? Just yell it out. You got something? What do you need?
Sound, sights, smells, senses.
All right, beautiful. Now you didn't quite follow the PT and S, but I don't care at all. I like those ideas. Who else got some more PT and S?
Profit, triple, solid.
Nice.
Privacy, trust, silence.
Wonderful. One more.
Participation, taste, and stimulation.
Lovely. So lots of things will affect lots of people in different ways when it comes to creativity. Now, I happen to be a creativity facilitator for many years, and in my dealings with lots of different groups, it's become very clear what helps us be most creative, and I call it this. PTS, permission to suck. If there's nothing else you do in your life in order to be more creative, it's this. It's giving yourself permission to suck. Because think about it. When you're a kid, you're in elementary school, who can sing or dance? Every kid raised their hand. But what happens 3rd grade, 5th grade, 10th grade? I was a high school teacher in a career many years ago. And I remember 10th graders. It was like, who can dance? Maybe the star in the dance troupe will raise her hand. But no one else will at that point. Because we live in a society that if we don't become experts at something, we don't give ourselves a lot of credit for it, and we don't allow ourselves to try. So about 15 years ago, I founded the Creativity Network in order to help people as adults get together, learn to be creative, and part of it is giving ourselves permission. And if we think about it in organizations right now, we need to have permission to fail, to work on things, to try things out. Organizations have to be innovative, but innovation requires creativity. And really what creativity is our ability to open up to ideas and then close to ideas. So in the creativity business, we tend to call this divergent thinking and convergent thinking. So if you want to be creative, if your group you're with wants to be creative, you have to spend time diverging, open to all the possibilities, using your imagination, and not judging, giving yourself permission to suck for a while. That's the mindset you need in order to turn on your faucet. You need it when you're working with others, and maybe in an organization you might say permission to fail. You have to have that permission. Because think about it, if there's no permission to be wrong, if you always have to be smart, right, or clever, you're going to squelch a lot of the ideas that you would have. And that's what happens today in business meetings, is that someone's got a cockamamie idea. Guess what? You get one evil eye from somebody, and you're never going to share a cockamamie idea again. But guess what? Our inner voices are just like that. We all have those inner critics, gremlins, whatever you want to call them, that if you don't do it perfectly the first time, you're like, bad, I'm never going to open my mouth again. So what's clear is we need creativity and innovation in our society, and that means we need to give ourselves more permission. Practically speaking, maybe you need to give yourself time to throw out ideas, and then later you can converge. And that's what we tend not to do. We have an idea and we squelch it right away. So the first principle, which I call competency of creativity, is fluency. Your ability to turn on the faucet to access and generate many ideas. The mindset we need for that, PTS, permission to suck. Okay? Fluent organizations are ones that spread ideas. They have suggestion box or different ways for people to submit ideas. They support pilot projects. They're always letting people try things out, and it's okay to fail. Individually, that means you open to trying new things. And we're going to, a little bit later, I'm going to ask you to stretch yourselves to generate some new ideas. So that's the first competency. Permission to suck is the key mindset for that competency of fluency. What's the second one? We mentioned flexibility. Now, flexibility is your ability to combine ideas, to look at things differently, to try on different coats. If I took off this coat right now and gave it to you, you would feel different. It would change your perspective of things. Can you see through different lenses? I flew here yesterday from Chicago to Boston. I hadn't been in Boston for a long time. I landed, I'm in Faneuil Hall, and I'm like, wow, all these different ideas are stimulated in me. When's the last time you went to someplace completely different? And maybe that means you need to dig a hole in your backyard and go in the hole. I don't know. To be creative, we have to be flexible in our thinking and also what we do. And part of that is being open to the world, and part of it is also constantly seeing things from a different perspective. What would a child think? What if is a great technique. What if I had all the money in the world? What would you do then? What if we had to go have fun today, but we could only go a block from the studio? What would we find to do? When we constrain ourselves, creativity can really flourish. That's part of flexibility. And flexible organizations are ones that constantly look at other perspectives, constantly figure out what their customers want, bring together people from different departments, different teams to access ideas. That's number 2. Number 3, I mentioned, is originality. And here's really the doozy, and this is what Suze teaches as well, is how do we mine for our inner gold? And really what that's all about is how do you pursue that which you naturally, inherently love? What can you do as an individual to access that passion? And the truth is, great organizations empower their people to access their passion. I don't know if you know this, but companies like Google have something they call 20% passion time. 1 day out of 5 per week. They're allowed to do whatever they want. And some people probably abuse that privilege, but guess what? 50% of their new products and services come out of that passion time, that 20% time. So how do you pursue your passion? We need your creativity as much as possible. So what I'd like to do with us together is see if in this strange environment of a TV show studio that we can stretch ourselves to try something we wouldn't normally try. Now, you might not be a singer, and maybe you're going to suck. But guess what? We got permission. Okay, so let me ask you guys something. So first, do you give me permission to suck for the rest of the time here?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Now, do you give yourself permission to suck?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me be clear on this again. Creativity is needed in our society more than ever. We need it personally, we need it culturally, we need it economically, we need it in businesses, we need it in your home. Okay, we have to figure out a way to live better because a lot of us feel like we're not living really well right now. So what that means, the engine of innovation is creativity, and creativity requires us as individuals to learn how to open more. We can close later. So how do we practice opening? I think that's really the challenge because it's not cool to be dumb. It's not cool to be sucky, okay? So how do we allow ourselves to be sucky for a while? Later, we'll judge. We're good at judging, especially as adults. So let's see if we can allow ourselves to be sucky for the next few minutes. Are you guys game?
Sure.
Sure.
All right, let's do it. Okay, well, welcome back. I'm very excited to have my, maybe not the largest audience that we've ever had, but 6 willing participants for this exercise. And what we're asking ourselves to do is give ourselves permission to stretch. And that's really for anybody, is how do we stretch a little bit beyond what we've tried before? So this is an exercise for maybe the more brave, for people who don't normally sing. You see this lovely guitar we got here. And what I've asked this group to do, I'm going to ask you to do, if you're watching on your computer or at home, is to come up with what could you do in order to live a more creative life? What could you test? How could you take more risks? What could you try at home? Where could you go? What could you experiment with in order to be more creative? Creativity is all about experimentation, risk-taking, initiating things that you haven't initiated, seeing things differently. So the challenge today during this show was to come up with 4 lines, and you'll see it in the explanation here, 4 lines that rhyme in couplets. And what we want to try to do is come up with an idea to be more creative that would be really outrageous. Remember, we're giving ourselves permission to stretch and to suck, okay? So we want to be really outrageous. So the idea is to come up with 4 lines that rhyme, and the last line so outrageous that we finally will need release from our creativity freedom, and we're going to release ourselves with this chorus. You guys are going to try this with me. That goes, so eventually you might say, you know what? I'm going to pull out all my hair in order to be more creative. And we're going to respond to that with this chorus. I wouldn't do that. I couldn't do that. I would not, could not, should not. I would not, could not, should not do that. Okay, very nice. So we're going to see what we came up with for our different possibilities for being more creative in our lives. I'm going to invite Jill from the audience to come up here. So she's going to demonstrate a little bit. Those of you at home can be working on one as we're doing this as well. So let me do one first. I have one written down. I just wrote this down. We'll see if it's any good. So here's things I've considered, okay? Okay, so I could camp out in my yard. Maybe I'll tour a graveyard. I could sculpt you in detail. I could even give up my email maybe for a day. I wouldn't do that. I couldn't do that. I would not, could not, should not. I would not, could not, should not do that. Now, you might have noticed my rhymes weren't perfect. They weren't the greatest lines in the world. So that's the challenge, is to open up the possibilities. So you got something for us, Jill?
Sure, I'm gonna try.
Here we go.
I could take 6 showers a day.
Nice.
I could wear an old-fashioned beret.
Why not?
I could celebrate my embarrassing debts.
Wow.
I could take 100 deep breaths.
Okay, stop. I wouldn't do that. I couldn't do that. I would not, could not, should not. I would not, could not, should not do that. All right, you stay up here for a minute. But I want to ask people in the audience. Let's go over to the audience. Who's willing to try one? You willing to try one? Why don't you stand up, Judy? Judy, is that your name? Stand up.
I could tell a few more lies. I could dance for exercise.
Nice.
I could record my own ringtone. No, I couldn't give up my cell phone.
Wait, are you saying you'd be willing to give up your cell phone?
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that. Come on, everybody. I couldn't do that. I would not, could not, should not. Thank you. I would not, could not, should not do that. Young man in the back, are you ready to try one?
Sure.
Here we go. I'll start you off. I could.
Wake up at sunrise, prepare you a big surprise.
Nice.
Make friends with some rabbits, and blog about my bad habits.
You're going to blog about your bad habits. That would be therapeutic. I'd probably get things off your chest, but you know what? I wouldn't do that. I couldn't do that. I would not, could not, should not. I would not, could not, should not do that. What else we got? Let's keep it going.
I could get a pet duck
Nice.
or take my cat for a walk.
Sure.
I could paint a mirage or perhaps clean out your garage.
You could clean out my garage. That would give you lots of interesting ideas, but that would take too long. I wouldn't do that. I couldn't do that. I would not, could not, should not. I would not, could not, should not do that. Are you ready to try it, sir?
I could choose to follow my dreams for once, and I'll conclude I'm a total dunce. I'll pretend for a week that I'm a star, and fly so fast I'll crash my car.
Crash your car. No, I wouldn't do that. I couldn't do that. I would not, could not, should not. I would not, could not, should not do that. So that's the question that we have for today. If we're really going to explore and expand our creativity, we're going to have to ask ourselves, what can we do a little differently? You got one more for us?
Sue's gonna do one?
Sue's got to do one. Suze, are you willing to do one?
Of course I'll do one.
All right,
Go for it.
Suze, here we go. 1, 2, here we try.
I'll build my studio out of recycled plastic
Nice.
and work in it all by myself. How fantastic.
Nice.
I'll create the life I want just by thinking. Now I'll dive into the ocean. thinking.
So diving into the ocean, is that a good idea? I wouldn't do that. I couldn't do that. I would not, could not, should not. I would not, could not, should not. I am going to end it here because it is time. I would not, could not, should not do that. Woo! All right, well, thank you so much for stretching with me. May you all continue to stretch.
As we come to a close, and we've had the most fun today. I can't tell you, I love how people have come up with all these verses, and you, just with that guitar, it just brings everybody alive. And you know, one thing we do on this show that is so fun is I try to summarize, because I want people to leave the Wake Up Your Magic show to have gotten something out of your creativity workshop. You know, we're going to see your credits on the bottom of the screen. We're going to go to creativity.net, www.creativity.net.
With a K.
With a K, absolutely, and that'll be on the screen. You know, right on the bottom of your screen right now, you see Adam's name, Adam Shamus, the creativity expert here from Chicago. So this has been so much fun, and I'd like to say to each of you who've been watching, wake up, make life your very, very best. Let your eyes sparkle, your imaginations flourish. Honor all the work we've done tonight with Adam. Think of his verses. Think of the great song we just sang with the beyond the shoulds, the coulds, the musts. Remember this creativity night tonight of bringing yourself out, of journeying to a more fulfilling life, and let your dreams do the rest. And in conclusion, Adam, we always ask people to send me an email at suesgild@mac.com and tell us what you like about the show. Do you want Adam back here? What would make you happy? And again, wake up your magic again and again.